Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Homeowners insurance increasing or deductible too high? Call, click, or come in. Save it, Dave. Dave Miette Insurance Agency.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
Cnc Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, Cnc provides patient-centered care for your entire family. Cnc Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher, live from our Pontchartrain Production Studios on a beautiful day here in Old New Orleans. We'll be talking about the Saints, Tulane, LSU, Pelicans, and of course Loyola getting a national championship. All that on the program today. And to break it down for us is Fletcher Mackel of Channel 6 Sports. Fletch, welcome to the show. Always good to have you back. And before we get started, I wanted to give our thoughts and prayers to those that were in the path of the tornado. I know you were out there shortly after doing news reporting for Channel 6 and the devastation. We've dealt with it, obviously, with the tornado New Orleans East. I was involved in one in 1995 in Araby after we moved into our house there. Nothing to the gravity what we saw obviously again on Tuesday night, but then of course Katrina, all the hurricanes we've had, and you've done so much news duty. Just your thoughts, and of course again all of our thoughts and prayers with everyone who's having to deal with again the aftermath of destruction.
Yeah, no, it was definitely, look, the people of St. Bernard Parish, as you know, are as resilient as they come, and they were cleaning up that night. That was something that I loved seeing, neighbors helping neighbors. But you're right, I was doing sports, watching the Loyola game, and then when we saw what we saw on the TV, we at WDSU went into wall-to-wall coverage, which means that the sports people are thrown into news coverage as well. And I was in Araby, and it was really, I've never seen destruction like that. I think we understand storm coverage and storm damage and flooding, and you see the images from the Midwest when you see tornadoes, but it's stuff you see on TV. I've never seen tornado damage like that in Louisiana. It really, your heart goes out to a lot of great people in Araby, and hopefully, look, I know Guy McGinnis is a great guy as parish president, and they've got some really good people down there. So they rebuilt after Katrina. I know the rebuilding is already in process as they process what happened, but yeah, it was just a really rough night on Tuesday evening.
You mentioned Loyola. You're a Loyola's graduate. How great are you feeling right now with, again, an NAIA national championship? You
joked about it when I got here. It's a beautiful day.
Yes.
I could be at the celebration right now. They're having a celebration on campus from 12:30 to 2:30 on Thursday afternoon. It's fantastic. Look, they restarted the athletic program in 1991, complete non-scholarship. I got there in 1995, no scholarships, and building a program from the ground up is not easy, especially in Louisiana where you got great athletics and great college teams. So from where they came in 1991, 30 years ago, to where they are now, winning a national championship, and not just winning a national championship, their average margin of victory this year, I think, was 21 points per game. They are so above the NAIA NAIA, that they have built something. Brett Simpson's the athletics director, and what he has built there, I don't think people understand how special it is. 20 varsity sports. The baseball team hosted a regional last year. This wasn't like some Cinderella story. The basketball team was there last year in the Sweet 16. The women's basketball team is good. The volleyball team is good. His swimming and diving teams. I mean, it's a really special athletic department that if the new president wanted to move into Division I, they could compete in the Southland tomorrow. They beat UNO this year. They beat McNeese last year. They could win the South, and they'd be on even footing with Southeastern, Nichols, UNO. But take that away. What they are in the NAIA is a powerhouse force, and they just ran away with that national championship, and it was a really historic season that they should celebrate, and they will be celebrated forever on that campus.
We should all here in New Orleans be celebrating this, right?
Without question.
I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, again, maybe it was a little bit of a sleeper early, again, but look, I've talked about on the radio show the last few weeks, again, as we started to say, wait, this is really a really good team. And looks like they're going to have a chance to win a national championship. But, I mean, everybody has now, again, put their fingerprints all over this in terms of letting people know, again, how good this program is. Let me ask you, as an alumni, do you anticipate that? You're not the first one that I've heard say that this is a team that could come in Division I right now and compete in the Southland Conference.
I mean, I am someone who would have liked to have seen it 10 years ago.
Right.
I think that most of the schools, and you look at smaller schools that have moved up. When I was at Loyola, we played Houston Baptist. They were NAIA, they're now Division I. A lot of these programs that are now Division I and even play in the Southland, Abilene Christian, Houston Baptist, smaller schools around the country in California have moved up because I think they realize there's more prestige in Division I, there's more revenue if you're successful in Division I. And so I would love to see it personally. But again, it's going to take a president and a board committed to it. And I think right now they just haven't had the appetite for it because, look, they have to deal with enrollment and endowment and fundraising and curriculum. There are a lot of moving parts at a private university. But whoever, and look, I think Tanya Tetlow was an amazing president. I think Father Kevin Wildes was a really good president. I still have a great relationship with him. And I think Fordham University is getting an amazing president in Tanya Tetlow. But it's going to take a president and a board saying, here's our plan in 5 years, here's our plan in 10 years to get behind it. But until then, Brett Simpson doesn't make any excuses. That's what I love about Brett. He's not saying, make us Division I and we'll do well. He's saying, we'll just kick everybody's butt and do well. And if there's a chance to go to Division I, maybe we'll end up there one day. But wherever we play, we're going to be great.
Some really good news for the team, though. Because of the COVID-19 extra year, they might be able to bring most of this team back, including their stars, to defend that championship next year.
Sure, you're right. It's amazing how college, the eligibility works now. I don't want to make fun of it, but I know COVID changed a lot of things for college students and affected the way eligibility works. But I see guys now, it's like, oh, that 6th year of eligibility. I'm like, wow, a 6th year of eligibility. And so, but you're right, they could almost, and some of those guys may have a chance to go pro and get a chance maybe in the G League or overseas, which is great. That's how good they are. So I wouldn't be upset if those guys chose the pro route and said, let me go play overseas and maybe leads to an NBA opportunity or a G League opportunity. I mean, look at Jose Alvarado, undrafted, little bitty guy out of the G League. He's now going to get a contract with the Pelicans. Guys on that Loyola team have that kind of ability. So we'll see if they come back or if they go pro.
Congratulations, and again, the entire program, the entire school's got to be excited about, again, the direction they're going. It's just fantastic. It really is. Great story. All right, let's get to the Saints. Before we jump into Saints right now, let's talk about Deshaun Watson. Just your thoughts on the chase for Deshaun Watson, and again, how this thing turned out.
Yeah, from a football perspective, I think we all understood it. He's a 26-year-old, 3-time Pro Bowl player who, in 2020, the last time he played, led the NFL in passing. On the field, he's a franchise quarterback. I mean, he would be, if Deshaun Watson, from a football standpoint, was on this New Orleans Saints team, you would be talking about the Saints on the same footing is the Rams, Green Bay, and Tampa Bay. Those would be the 4 best teams in the NFC, no doubt about it. One of those teams I would pick to win the NFC. But everything that came with it, because of the 22 investigations of sexual assault and harassment, I just felt like it probably wasn't the best look for an organization that has woven itself into the fabric of this community, that has become a champion of the community, doing the right thing with the right people the right way since Katrina. And I understand it's a high stakes win now competitive environment, and this man was not indicted. Forget being found innocent.
Right.
He wasn't even taken to trial.
Right.
Now, there are civil suits against him. So I see it from both sides of people. Everybody deserves a second chance. People deserve second chances.
Absolutely.
I understand that, especially when you haven't even been charged with anything yet. But I also understand your business doesn't have to entertain people that you feel like may have been on the wrong side of a situation they shouldn't have been involved in. So it was definitely a polarizing topic. You know, there are people that said the Saints are a Super Bowl team, he deserves a second chance. There are people who said, I may give up my season tickets, I can't be a part of an organization that wants to have someone who's been investigated for what he has and is still dealing with civil litigation and even potential more. Now in Texas on Thursday, there may be more criminal grand jury investigations and or avenues that they could go down in Texas. So I'm kind of glad it didn't work out for the Saints, because I think it would have been a massive distraction for an organization that really shies away from distraction and likes to put the focus on football. I don't think they would have understood the distraction it would have become to this city, not only the city, but regionally and nationally as well. So I'm glad that they went in a different direction. Now, does that make them a championship team? It does not. But I think some things are probably just bigger than championships.
I vacillated with it for the full week. Part of me, honestly, from the football side said, man, you can't pass this up. But in the end, I could not get past, again, the accusations of the 22 women. And that was the thing that I think really put a lot of people over the top with it. Kid, up until this situation, the kid was thought of as, again, just a model citizen. We don't know, again, what the situation is. You can talk about Jameis Winston and the issues that he's had. Jameis Winston has grown up. He's married. He seems like a different guy than he was back then. Again, so yes, second chances, people change. It happens. You grow. I don't know if he's even had a chance to grow yet, because again, the situation of where it is.
Well, it hasn't even unfolded yet.
Right.
I mean, that's the thing. It's still unfolding. Because look, Jameis Winston was accused of some pretty faced disciplinary action because
sexual assault.
Yeah.
Again, at Florida State.
Right.
Also,
and then,
the Uber driver in
was suspended
Arizona.
3 games in 2018 for that.
Right.
And so, I mean, look, Jameis Winston came with a lot of baggage and a lot of questions. And what are we doing here? The different situation is that Jameis Winston was unemployed at the time, and it was a full-blown reclamation project of he needs to rehabilitate his image and his professional football career, and it cost nothing. He came for a minimum deal. And since then, I think we understand that with the second chance he's been given, he has become a better man. Like you said, he has grown, and everybody deserves second chances. This was a much higher stakes deal of what it would have taken from a football standpoint: 3 first-round draft picks, potentially a new contract, and then on top of that, you don't know. I mean, look, I get it. Jameis Winston was a couple of years past his situation. It doesn't make it right or wrong.
No.
It just means you knew the facts, and you could at least say, we have better context of what happened, and we understand, and we know what we're doing. This, you're getting into a situation that is still unfolding in real time. I mean, look, he was the grand jury. One grand jury cleared him on Friday, and immediately teams jumped in while civil litigation is still pending, and now there could potentially be more criminal investigation. So the Saints got into a situation that was murky, that they didn't have to get in, and I think that's the decision-making that you kind of question of, had this been a year or two past it, you may have understood it a little bit better from top to bottom, like you understood Jameis' situation, whereas this is, again, unfolding in real time. I mean, can you imagine if Cleveland just made the biggest trade, one of the biggest trades in NFL history, if Deshaun Watson is now indicted in another county in Texas and goes through the criminal process and is found guilty? I mean, Cleveland, it would go down as the worst trade in the history of sports.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Again, unless, as we were talking about before the show, there's a clause in his contract, a morals clause, that says if, again, he's involved in that again, the contract is void. We'll have to see how that kind of plays out. I think the Saints, look, you cannot say enough about his talent. But I think the off the field issues, I think they dodged a bullet here. But they cleared $25 million worth of cap space. They pretty much went and reworked every veteran deal they could work to get under the cap space. The good news is they don't give up draft picks, and they don't give up quality players that, again, we're talked about on this roster, which were guys on their first contracts, like a Debo, like a Gardner Johnson, other players like that, again, could be the core of this team going forward. I think that a lot of people right now are saying, well, what are you doing? Well, again, you've got this money. There's a need for weapons. You've lost Teron Armstead. You've lost Marcus Williams. Again, you bring in Marcus May to be able to take his spot. There's a possibility that Malcolm Jenkins may retire after June 1st. So that could be another hole in this team. And we know the Saints are methodical when it comes to free agency. But again, they've never really been flush with cash like they are right now. And a lot of people are wondering, okay, tight end, running back, maybe a swing tackle guard, maybe a strong safety, wide receiver. What's going on? Why aren't the Saints making moves?
Well, because I think that, so I go back to lessons learned, and I think that that's an important thing, and I always talk about that with David Griffin. I think Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis, one of the good things about them is that they had self-awareness and they learned lessons. I go back to Jarris Byrd in 2014.
Yes.
Everybody says the Saints are always, it's crazy, in cap jail, but yet they always, Loomis and Kai Hartley are magicians, and people outside the city just don't realize it, and they write about it every year, and every year they're fine. So Jarris Byrd got the richest deal in 2014 in the history at the time for an NFL safety.
Yes.
I think the Saints learned their lesson of just because we have the money doesn't mean we have to go spend it like crazy. That we need the right guys doing the right things the right way. They drafted horribly for a few years, if you recall, in 13, 14, 15. I mean, some of those drafts, got the Vinny Cincinnati draft with Kyrie Ford. I mean, that's maybe the worst draft in recent NFL history. I mean, some of those guys weren't just not on the Saints 2 years later. They were out of the NFL 2 years later. And
undrafted free agents were playing for the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And so, but I think since Jeff Ireland came on board, and really in 16 was his first draft, they've drafted so very well, including the famed draft of 2017. Now, even if they don't replicate the 2017 draft, they still hit on guys like you say, Adebo and Gardner Johnson. You're hitting on quality starting players in the draft. And in free agency, adding the right guys. Demario Davis, to me, is the best free agent signing in the history of the organization outside of Drew Brees. Drew Brees is the greatest. Demario Davis is, I can't think of another free agent signing, because Vilma was traded here.
Right, he was.
Like, a free agent signing that's better than Demario Davis. But they didn't go nuts for Demario Davis. Demario Davis got a nice deal, but they didn't make him the highest paid linebacker in the league. And you can go through and find the players that they've signed. I mean, Malcolm a couple of years ago, nice fit on this team. But they didn't have to go out and break the bank to make Malcolm the guy. So I think the fact that there's guys out there, but maybe they're just too expensive right now. And there's a reason why maybe other teams haven't jumped on them yet. There's a lot of teams. There's 10 teams right now with, I think, $20+ million to spend. Are all 10 crazy not to give Jarvis Landry $13 million a year? Are all 10 crazy not to sign Tyrann Mathieu to a big deal? Maybe they are. Or maybe they're not, and maybe the market isn't there for those guys. And once the market cools down a little bit, I think the Saints are certainly going to sign guys. They have money to sign guys. They're not just going to sit on it. That's just not what they do. But right now, maybe the agents and those players, the egos are still a little too swollen. And once they kind of come back down a little bit, we'll see the Saints make more moves. I like the signing of Street at defensive tackle. I think he's going to be really good. Is a versatile inside-outside guy that can line up next to David Onyemata, rejoining with Ryan Nielsen, who was his college coach. I like Marcus May. I think there's going to be very little drop-off. If Marcus May is healthy, I know he's coming off an injury, but I don't see a tremendous drop-off, and you got him for half the price of Marcus Williams. So I don't want to say the Saints are bargain hunting, but I think the Saints have probably put offers out. And all those players, like Jameis Winston, Jameis Winston's market was the Saints. And at the end of the day, that was it. He wanted more of a market. There was no market, so he realizes, I'm coming back to a playoff caliber team that I know where I can be the starter. Even if the money isn't what I want, it's a good situation. I think there's going to be situations like that regarding players, but the Saints shouldn't just say, we have money, spend it now, and overpay for guys that you look at and you go, yeah, God, because the same people that are saying spend it now will be the same ones to say they're idiots for spending in November when this guy isn't performing up to that contract.
I'm with you. Do we agree? Wide receiver? Tight end?
And tackle now that Teron Armstead's gone.
I mean, and probably, do you think a legitimate left or right tackle or a guy that can swing?
Well, let me say this. I feel like, Ramczyk in college was an awesome left tackle. They moved him, they drafted him even though they had Strief at the time because they just said, look, Ryan Ramczyk was a projected top 20 pick. The fact that he was at 32 is still mind-blowing to me. And the Saints even said they traded that to get they traded Brandon Cooks because they needed help on their defense. So they draft Lattimore, and then everybody thinks, well, a second pick is coming here for defense. But when Ramczyk was there, it's like, we just can't. We have to take him, even though we have Armstead and Streiff. Now, that's when Streiff dealt with the injuries, Armstead the injuries. But could you kick Ramczyk
you would
over
think you could.
To the left? And look, James Hurst has been a solid backup player for you. I think a very valuable role player for you. You could always maybe start him. He's been a starter in this league before at right tackle. If you believe in Ramczyk sliding over and continuing to be coming back healthy after his first injury-plagued season. Or maybe you could go sign a tackle and keep James Hurst at that swing kind of role and at least have more depth there. So I do think there's options. I certainly think the receiving core we saw last year, you lost Emmanuel Sanders as a salary cap casualty. Michael Thomas is hurt. And you realized when you try to play 3 and 4 and 5 receivers as 1 and 2, starting NFL DBs take those guys out of the game plan pretty easily. So I certainly think you need, now Michael Thomas is coming back, which is going to be a huge, if he's back and healthy and is the same type of player. But wide receiver I certainly think is a need just because there's question marks around Michael Thomas. And then tight end, look, I still think that there's hope for Adam Troutman.
I agree.
But he didn't take the leap from year 1 to year 2 that I think they envisioned. But that doesn't mean he's not going to take a leap in year 3. But I do think they could certainly use some depth at that position. Like, I think Juwan Johnson's a nice guy, but he's not really a true tight end in the sense. Right, and they line him up all over the place in the slot. And, so... Yeah, I think those are definitely, they addressed, to me they addressed the safety position, free safety position, and they addressed depth on the defensive line, which I think was an underrated need for them too, is depth on the interior of the defensive line. But yeah, now they have a hole at tackle, either left or right, depending on what they do with Ramczyk, and you still have questions at wide receiver, and you still have questions at tight end, so we'll see.
Be interested to see again how they address this. They seem to be more involved in wanting compensatory picks than in the past. They're losing players that they're getting compensatory picks for. And the way the formula works is if you sign less players than you lose, again, in a lot of cases, you're getting compensatory picks for certain players. We saw they lost the compensatory pick for Sheldon Rankins this year because of, again, a signing that they had. With that said, a guy like Jarvis Landry, there's no compensatory pick. Any player that, again, is released from their contract and doesn't just go into free agency, again, there is no compensatory pick. So to me, if they're looking for players, where they're not hurting themselves in terms of compensatory picks, he's one. He's an example. But also, when you look at the wide receiver position, Hardy got better last year. Callaway got better last year. Okay, so you feel they're going to take the next step. Tight end, there's just a need, it seems, for a veteran there. Okay, Vanette was supposed to be the guy. He was hurt most of the season. Can you really count on him? To me, a veteran there. And then running back. With Kamara's situation, with the off the field possible suspension, I think you need a starting running back. And again, a guy that can run inside, catch the ball, obviously out the backfield, and also protect the quarterback. A guy that maybe is in the mold of a Mark Ingram. So again, when Kamara comes back, they can coexist. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think that is Mark Ingram, right?
Right, but Mark Ingram is on the other side of 30.
Sure. And again, and I'll say this, I don't know if the Saints look at the compensatory picks and even fact, my gut tells me from the people I've talked to, they don't look at that and say, we want these compensatory picks, or we're going to lose these compensatory picks. I don't think that is even on the table for Mickey Loomis. I think they understand it, like Terry Fontenot got hired, they got a compensatory pick for him. They got a compensatory pick for losing Trey Hendrickson. But I don't think that played into...
They'll get one for Armstead.
Right, they'll get one for Armstead, without question. I don't know if that will factor into... I think they'll gladly take those compensatory picks, but I don't think that factors into a lot of their decisions of, let them go, we're getting a pick. I just don't think that's something that I think they would have liked both those guys back. I don't think it was...
At the right price, though.
At the right price, right, sure. But what do I think they need? Yeah, I mean, I think running back is certainly a position where they could upgrade, but I don't look at it maybe as a must position. Like, I maybe have more faith in Mark Ingram as kind of that backup to Alvin Kamara. Or, I mean, Alvin Kamara has become, I mean, even Mark Ingram's that's one of the reasons why Mark Ingram didn't get the big contract back in 2018, if you remember, is because Alvin Kamara had kind of become the super utility guy that could do everything. And while Ingram was a very good piece on this team, the Saints had set the number. Ingram didn't want it. They signed Latavius Murray. Then Ingram had to go to Baltimore. I think Ingram overplayed his market a little bit.
I agree.
But I think you're talking about somebody that, in all practical purposes, is still a backup. So, like, if a running back is available in free agency, then they could certainly add depth.
Yes.
I think absolutely. Or in the draft, absolutely. But I don't know if I look at it as a must. To me, I would say the must positions to me are tackle, because while I like James Hurst and think he's an amazing interview and is a valuable player on this team, I don't know if I would love him at 17 games starting at right tackle, certainly not at left tackle. And then I would also say tight end, because of I don't think they were happy with Vinette last year.
I agree.
With what they signed him to do and what he did, and Troutman hasn't taken the leap. And sure, while Callaway got better and Hardy got better, I think they need, be it a first-round draft pick or a second-round draft pick, a difference maker type, because we heard a lot in training camp, Marquez Callaway. There's all these training camp darlings that people get high on.
Right.
But then when that number one lockdown DB pays attention and locks down on that guy, you see that this is not a number one receiver, and maybe even a number two receiver. So while I like those guys, I still hold them like as that third or fourth receiver.
Which is where they belong, right?
Right, yeah, that I still could say if Michael Thomas is back, you need another legit 1-2 receiver for this team. So that, to me, is the biggest need for this team. Then tackle, then tight end. Sure, is running back on the list? Sure. But not, to me, in my opinion, at the top of the list or in the top three.
Terron Armstead signs a 5-year deal. Was it $72 million?
43 or something.
$44 million guaranteed. Too rich for the Saints?
Well, yeah. I mean, it was probably too rich for the Saints. But again, this is the thing about Terron Armstead that didn't surprise me, but I think it says a lot about the state of the Saints right now. Terron Armstead waited to see if they got Deshaun Watson. That reportedly, he hasn't said that, but from respected people who cover the NFL, multiple reported that free agency started, and there were a lot of teams with a lot of money, and protecting the quarterback is at a premium. And teams like Cincinnati had money, Jacksonville had money, Miami had money. Some of those teams came out the gate. Jacksonville, spending spree from day one. Cincinnati, spending spree from day one. Terron Armstead reportedly waited to see what the Saints did if they got Watson, because I think he understood if they got Watson, maybe he would sacrifice a little bit of money or structure his deal differently if he felt like we are a Super Bowl team right now with Deshaun Watson. This defense, Kamara, Michael Thomas coming back, me on the offensive line with McCoy and Ramczyk, we're built to win and win it all right now. And then all of a sudden they don't get Deshaun Watson, and now Terron Armstead is leaving. I think he's saying, okay, you know what? If I'm not a true Super Bowl contender, if I'm not one of the top 4 or 5 teams, because now I would say the 4 teams are still the Rams, still Green Bay, Brady back in Tampa, Dallas. I mean, I don't even know who I would put 5 in the NFC. I really don't. San Francisco, maybe, but I don't know what Trey Lance is going to be. So. And maybe the Saints, I don't know. I mean, maybe Philadelphia, I don't know. I mean, it's just, to me, the AFC has gotten so much better. I mean, there's 13 legitimate championship teams in the AFC. There's 4 in the NFC. But Terron Armstead certainly didn't look at this team right now as one of the top 3 or 4 with what they have and said, this last big payday of my career, I can't stay to win a Super Bowl if we're not legit. And I'm leaving. And whether that's fair or unfair, or people say you're drawing too many conclusions, I am drawing my own conclusions, but that certainly seems like I'm deciphering the Rosetta Stone the right way, so to say.
No, I agree with you. I think that he waited to see what was going to happen there. But is that an indictment on Jameis Winston?
I think it's an indictment. Yeah, I certainly think so. I think it says that and again, if Terron, and I like Terron, I mean, he's one of my favorite people to cover. I think he's one of the true good guys in all of sports who's done so much for this community and in the locker room. And they're losing also, too, I should point out, a great stoic leader in that locker room. I don't know if it's an indictment on Jameis Winston. Is the organization of, I don't look at you all right now as a true bona fide Super Bowl
But
contender.
He did if Deshaun Watson was going to be quarterback.
Yeah. So I think he looks maybe as the defense. And, so you're right. Maybe it is a little bit of an indictment on Jameis Winston of, I don't look, if you're a Super Bowl championship quarterback, you got to prove it again to me and everybody else. I don't look at you as stepping in and being the guy that everybody, and look, I think you're going to see national people say the same thing. And no one's going to pick the Saints to win the NFC South with Brady back in Tampa. 100 for 100 prognosticators are picking the Bucs to win the NFC South. Now, are the Saints one of the 7 best teams? I think we just did it. 4 teams in the NFC right now. I mean, help me if I'm wrong. I would say Rams, Packers, Tampa, then Dallas. Maybe Arizona after that, maybe, because of Kyler Murray being really good, maybe. But I could certainly convince myself of the Saints being one of the top 7. Like Minnesota, are they there with Minnesota? Sure. Like I could see them getting in over Minnesota. There with Philadelphia? Sure, no doubt about it. Like, again, I don't look at the NFC as being quite as deep as some of these, other conferences.
Well, the quarterbacks are so much better than the other conferences.
Yeah, I mean, you got, like I said, and you have, to me, you have 12 legit quarterbacks in the AFC and 13 legit teams because I count the Steelers.
Yeah.
Is like, I don't know who's playing quarterback. I think Mitch Trubisky, maybe Dwayne Haskins.
Right.
But the other 12 have bona fide, legit quarterbacks. So 13 teams that you could that are going to start the season in the AFC talking championship, and 6 of those teams are not only going to not get a championship, they're going to miss the playoffs. Yeah. Whereas in the NFC right now, we can't even name 7 playoff teams. We got 4 contenders and then 3 maybes. And so, but yeah, so that's good for the Saints because if they get in, anything can happen.
Jameis Winston first reported $28 million, $21 guaranteed. Ian Rappaport came back and said the signing bonus is $14 million, $15.2 million guaranteed. That seems much fairer of a contract for both sides than what was originally reported.
Yeah, that seems about like what Jameis Winston should get.
Right, exactly.
He gets a significant raise from last year.
Yes,
last year,
deserving.
His first year in 20, he was on a minimum deal.
Right.
His second year, last year, he got $5 million guaranteed with incentives up to 12, and I think he made like 8 before his injury. So this year, you are getting him closer to starting caliber NFL money, but you're not breaking the bank for him. And here's the thing. There just was no market for Jameis. That I think the Saints waited. They kicked the tires on Deshaun Watson. I don't know if they called on Garoppolo or what else happened. I think Jameis was waiting all along to try to pit 2 teams against each other, that other team being the Colts. But people in Indianapolis tell me that they were never truly serious about Jameis Winston. And there's been a lot of good reporting out of Indianapolis that there was never, look, Jameis Winston in his camp will say Indianapolis was interested, but there's nobody besides Jameis Winston in his camp saying Indianapolis was interested. That there were, again, the people in Indianapolis that I've spoken to and followed their reporting is right when Deshaun Watson went to Cleveland, I think people knew things in Atlanta may not exactly be copacetic anymore. So Indianapolis engaged with Matt Ryan, knowing that the Colts have a good offensive line, a great running back, and an awesome defense. They look at themselves as a quarterback away. They look at themselves like the Rams. Like they think they're the Rams of this year. Give us the quarterback. We're all in. We're ready to go. And they may not be wrong. And so I think the Colts wanted Matt Ryan on Friday, reportedly worked through the weekend, and then got the deal done Monday. Well, once the Indianapolis window closed, where else is Jameis going? I mean, sure, could he maybe wait for Seattle, but he battled Drew Lock? Could he maybe go to Carolina? That looks awful right now with a coach that's going to be on the hottest of hot seats and ready to get fired. And then after that, is there even another job? There's no other job. I mean, Atlanta moved pretty quickly on Mariota. And I mean, Atlanta wasn't really interested. So I think that Jeff Duncan, who I know comes on your show a lot, called it a marriage of convenience. It is. There's nothing wrong with that. And here's the thing. I would tell Jameis and his people, embrace it. Like, here's the thing. Don't try to spin it into, I had other offers, but I didn't want them. No, that's just not the case. Like, somebody always told me, understanding and knowing who and what you are is the best thing you can do to live your best life. Drew Brees didn't show up here in 2006 trying to convince people Miami really wanted me and I picked the Saints. No, he knew. He knew Miami picked Culpepper, and he came here and has said, if I didn't come to the Saints, my next offer was as a backup in competing with John Kitna in Detroit. He came here with a massive chip on his shoulder. They believed in me, and I'm going to believe in them and prove them right. Whether I wanted Miami or not, that's over with. I think Jameis should come in with the same chip on his shoulder. That, hey, I think he and his camp thought he was going to get a Bridgewater deal. Bridgewater went 5-0. Carolina gave him 3 years, $60 million with 40 guaranteed. And it turned out horribly. And that's the kind of deal the Saints weren't doing. So there was no big market for him. He should embrace that and say, I'm going to show all you people who've doubted me wrong. I'm going to come in here and I will light it up this year. Don't let your agent, and don't try to spin it as Indy wanted me and I didn't want them. It's like, look, to me, we're starting off at a bad place if that's where you're starting off. Start off as, why didn't anybody want me? I will continue to prove them that I am this truly elite talent that can pass for 5,000 yards consistently and not throw 30 interceptions.
And that'll be good for both parties.
Yeah.
No doubt. All right, you're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. We're going to take a quick break. Fletcher Mackel is our guest from Channel 6 Sports. And, of course, we'll hear from our underwriters. We'll come back. We'll jump right into some Pels. Then we'll jump into some college football. All that coming up next here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Stick around.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Fletcher Mackel, Channel 6 Sports, is our guest. We jump into the Pelicans, which we both love, NBA basketball. 31-42, they're the 10th seed. Game out of the 9th seed with the Lakers. 2 games out of the 11th seed. Spurs breathing down their neck. Spurs and Lakers this weekend in the Smoothie King Center. Big weekend, 10 games left in the season. The big story right now is that's circulating is what's going to happen with Zion. It appears that Zion is using social media once again to put pressure on Aaron Nelson, the training staff, put pressure on the organization to get him back on the court with 10 games left. I can understand the hesitation from the organization in one breath, and the other breath is, hey, if Zion Williamson's coming off your bench and he's giving you, 10 minutes, a half. Whatever, the burst minutes what they were doing before. That's not a bad thing. And then the other thing is, then he's, proving that he's healthy. Okay, if he is healthy, that helps you again if you have to move off of him at the end of the season, which I don't think they're going to do, or again offering him the big deal. What do you think is going to happen here? Because this is like a repeat of what we saw a couple years ago when Zion is aching to get on the court, and David Griffin and Aaron Nelson have got the reins on him saying, wait, you got to slow down here. Yeah,
so that's a lot to digest.
It is.
And so I will answer it like this. The whole situation is really embarrassing and really an awful look for Zion and for the organization, because I don't think they are on the same page. I don't think they communicate, and I think the relationship is fractured. Is it fractured beyond repair? I think it's pretty close. Like, never say never, but I have heard people use the words irreparable to describe Zion's relationship with this organization. Okay. And here's how I look at it. There's a lot of good in the last year. Now, look, David Griffin made a lot of mistakes, and I'll give him credit.
But he made up for them.
Let me say this. He rips the Band-Aid off quick, and he moves on quick.
It cost yes. number 1 picks, but he made up.
Sure, look, I mean, he kept Alvin Gentry when he probably should have rebooted the entire organization. Absolutely. He hired the wrong coach in Stan Van Gundy. Derek Favors was the wrong big man. Steven Adams was the wrong big man. Eric Bledsoe was a horrible veteran player here who didn't want to be here. Like, you missed on Nikhil as a draft pick. But that being said, he has learned and he has gotten better. And not everybody gets the chance to learn and get second chances or third chances. But Willie Green is the right coach for this organization. There is no doubt in my mind this man could lead this team to the greatest heights it's ever been to.
I agree.
The players respect him. He's a former player. The organization, he just gets it. Like, there's, if you're around Willie Green, you understand why the path to success is clear. Jonas is the right big man. They finally drafted. Herb Jones is a good rookie. Even Alvarado finding him as they've done the right thing.
And Murphy's going to be good down the line. He's getting confidence.
You've added C.J. McCollum, one of the most respected players in the league, who gives you what you didn't have: playmaking, shooting, a lead guard. Everything about the last year has been they planted seeds and it was barren. They weren't growing. It was just an awful situation to look at that yard and go, this looks terrible.
Yeah.
But the seeds David Griffin planted this year are growing into something I think could be special. But there's this horrible dark cloud still hanging over the organization of Zion and his stepfather in his camp, and what do they do? And I hate to say that because I think first, Zion was the one, you got the superstar talent and you're screwing it up. The organization's messing up. Now I think, though, the organization's doing it the right way, and Zion and his camp, I think, have lost so much trust, confidence, and faith that they are disengaged from what's happening. And the crazy thing is we're all speculating, and we're all guessing, and we're all giving our opinion because Zion hasn't spoken. And when the organization speaks, it is so bland, because I don't think they truly know what's going on. Like, this is a question somebody asked me, and I said, I don't know, because they won't answer it, and nobody knows. The Pelicans have a team surgeon, but a specialist did Zion's foot surgery, working in conjunction with the Pelicans, knowing what is going on and what is happening. Well, who did the biological injection? Who was he out in Portland? He says a doctor says his foot is healing. Who's saying that? Is it an independent doctor? Is it the doctor that did the surgery? Is it a Pelicans doctor? What's happening? So I think that Zion in his camp are probably, we don't want to be Greg Oden. We don't want to be this injury-plagued big man that had a unique body type that could never stay healthy, and it derailed his career. Put us on the court, he's healthy, he's good to go, he wants to play. But I think the Pelicans probably look at it and say, what medical metric are we looking at? Is the bone healed? Have you rehabbed it properly? Have you ramped up to make sure you don't have another setback? Like, I think Zion and his people are looking at the immediacy of it, put us out there. He's a 21-year-old kid. He's good to go. And I think even going back to 2019, when he tore the meniscus, and that's 4 to 6 weeks, and it ended up being like 13 or 14. And then when he came back, it was almost like the show pony. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there.
You can't get a rhythm.
And I do think that that's where the initial splint of Zion and the organization and the trust happened, and it's continued to grow deeper because of that. Well, this certainly isn't a situation that's helping mend it in any way. And where does it end? I truly don't know. And I don't know if they know, because how do you offer Zion a max contract this summer when he's played 1 year of 3? And then here's the thing. Everybody looks at Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid missed his entire first and second seasons because of foot injuries. His third year, he plays 35 games. He makes the All-Star team. Then he suffers a knee injury. So he's played 3 years. He's played 35 games. You know he's this generational talent. Philly gave him a unique contract that was predicated on injuries and staying in shape and passing physicals. I don't know if Zion and his camp would take that. Like, I don't know if Zion and his people would look at some crazy incentive-laden deal and say, that's the deal we want. So I think this may actually play out to, if we're going to hold on to you because we know you're this great talent and we need you to come back next year and go crazy, and then you're a restricted free agent, we can match any offer you get, or we could sign you, or we could do a sign and trade. But then part of me feels like maybe they just rid themselves of what is a headache right now. Like, someone, if you notice, if people go to games, watch the game tonight. Watch the game on Saturday. And maybe it'll change tonight because I'm saying this. When they go into a timeout, Brandon Ingram, who's been injured, goes right to the huddle, isn't engaged.
That's right.
Zion kind of stays back and chit-chats with the ball boys and pays attention to the kissing contest and the dancing contest on the big board, that he does not seem to be quite as engaged with what's going on. And now, is he cheering his teammates on?
Yeah,
yes.
of course.
But when it's down to the nitty-gritty, he's kind of off to the side. So I just don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a fascinating offseason, because I do think they will get into the play-in. I don't know if they're getting into the playoffs, because the play-in would mean they have to win 2 games, winner take all. And then even if they get into the playoffs, they're getting Phoenix in round 1. We saw what Phoenix did to this team without Chris Paul. They're not getting anywhere in the playoffs. But just to get into the play-in.
It's good experience, though.
Look, the Memphis Grizzlies got into the play-in last year. This year, they're a true championship contender. 2 years ago, Willie Green's Suns went into the bubble, went 8-0, and everybody was talking about them. The year after, they're in the finals. I think this team, if they can get into the play-in with Brandon Ingram, with Willie Green, with C.J. McCollum, with Jonas Valanciunas, with Herb Jones, with, potentially another Lakers pick if it falls in the top 10, I think they're trending in the right direction for next year. The question is, what do you do with Zion? And I don't think they know right now. I truly believe that they don't have any idea what we're going to do with Zion this summer. They could trade him, absolutely positively, and it wouldn't surprise me. Or they could just hold on to him and say, hey, dude, whether you like us or not, we need you out here on the court. Just play your butt off, and that may be the quickest means to an end.
It seems that Aaron Nelson, as again, great a reputation as he has, is a little bit overcautious with injuries. I mean, almost I don't want to say to a fault, but overcautious. Brandon Ingram gets a slight hamstring strain. They're going to revisit it in 10 days. He's still out. Okay, the hope was he'd be back for tonight's game against the Bulls. Maybe he'll be back for, again, San Antonio, Los Angeles over the weekend. The hope is there. They need him back. It's a playoff run. You don't see guys sitting out during playoff runs. They get back on the court. So, again, maybe a little overcautious. This is a power struggle now between Zion and the organization. Who do you think can he put enough pressure on the organization to put him on the court?
I don't think so, because I don't think he has enough goodwill with the organization. That I think how he has acted and how his camp have acted, I think has swung the pendulum back to David Griffin. Like if you'd have asked me at the beginning of the season, I would have said, well, the star player is always going to win out. The whole coach, I hate to use the term coach killer, but star players have gotten coaches and executives fired because the star player, you need the box office, you need the star player to be great. So I would have told you at the beginning of the season, if Zion's unhappy with Griffin, maybe Griffin in some of the hierarchy is out at the end of the season to make sure that Zion is happy and wants to be here long term. I don't know if Zion has that kind of stroke anymore, because I think that they look at him and say, well, like, you didn't like what we were telling you here, so you went out to Portland to find basically like you medical shopped, so
this wasn't with the Pelicans' blessing. This was Zion and his camp saying, this is where we want to be.
Yeah, and it was with their blessing, because I think that the one thing they have all agreed to, whether they will admit that, if you put them under truth serum, I think David Griffin and Zion and his stepfather and his camp and the people at the Pelicans have said, let's do one thing. Let's not turn this into a war on each other, because no one wins that war. You'll look bad, we'll look bad, it'll be a horrible situation. Grin and bear it. So Zion, like at Media Day, which I felt like was very fake, was, I love it, I want to be here, I love this guy, we have a good relationship. I don't think any of that is true, and I don't think anything is true right now when they say, he's our guy, we're going to support him, we want to be all in. And Zion hasn't spoken, so we have no idea if he wants to be here. But I don't think they are on the same page, and I don't know how it is rectified. But to ask you who wins out, I think right now, the wins that David Griffin has over the last year, Willie, CJ, Jonas, I mean, you're around that team. These are tangible wins. Josh Hart and Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming to the game when the organization traded them and saying this is special and hugging guys, that's not like fairy dust. No. Those are tangible results that you are. I mean, look, Larry Nance, I went to practice yesterday, and Larry Nance goes, I've been here a month. And he goes, I've been in good locker rooms, bad locker rooms, good teams, bad teams. This is good. He goes, Griff and Trajan, and he goes, the guys on this team, Willie, he goes, this is good. We have something good here, and we're doing something good. I mean, these aren't guys being forced to say that. No. These are guys, like David Griffin did his happy talk and wanted everybody to hold hands and sing Kumbaya, and a lot of us like smirked and thought, cynical people said, I don't know. But after 3 years, I think that's why I think he will win out before Zion wins out in the immediacy. Now, how does that all work out? I don't know. But if you're asking me who has more power right now, I think Griffin, because he's got more tangible results than Zion, who has been disengaged.
Does he play again this year?
No.
So it's next year. Brandon Ingram, how quickly does he come back? Is he back this weekend?
Yeah, I was at practice yesterday. Yeah. I'm shocked that he's not playing tonight because he was full tilt at practice yesterday. The portion that the media gets to see. Sure. He was full tilt, cutting, jumping, shooting, full-blown workout, pouring sweat. I think this is just a cautious, because I think what you said, they know Spurs and Lakers are right on them, and they need those wins at home because they've got those teams and Portland down the stretch again. So I think he's back on Saturday.
All right, let's go to LSU. First of all, let's talk basketball. Let's talk violations. Will Wade, your thoughts on again the firing of Will Wade and the violations been put forth by the NCAA against the program.
I come on your radio show.
Right.
I mean, in 2019 when Will Wade was suspended. 2019? Yeah, 2019. I keep thinking it's 18 or 19. It was 19. In 2019, when he got suspended for the tournament, and because I remember my colleague Sharif Ishak went to Jacksonville, and then they made it to the Sweet 16 in D.C., and they were coached by an interim coach at the time. It was then I told you he's not going to coach again. I mean, there's a wiretap and a recording of him saying that's a damn strong offer, and he's talking about buying a player. And so again, I know things have changed with NIL. I understand the rules have changed and everything is different. But I felt like Will Wade would never coach again. So I've been wrong on Will Wade from day one. But now that the investigation came out, a years-long investigation that LSU just waited out. Like, you know, Scott Woodward, I think, was in a tough spot because Wade had built up a lot of good faith. In Baton Rouge, people love that renegade attitude, us against the world. That's a very kind of South Louisiana thing. You know, it's always us against them. Nobody gives us the respect. Everybody, he's our guy. He's a renegade, but he's our renegade. And so I think Scott Woodward and he's winning. You know, I mean, he's winning. So that's another thing. It's hard to. It was easy to pop O. He wasn't Woodward's guy. And then they went 5-5 and 6-6, and he made it easy. I mean, if Coach O had been 10-2 or in the playoffs this year, they probably were still around. So I think Scott Woodward did the right thing, waiting till the investigation, and then right when the investigation came out and found like a half a dozen level 1 violations, it made it pretty easy of let's wash our hands of this guy. So it didn't surprise me in the least bit. And I do think LSU, I understand things are different in the NCAA, but I think they are going to get, that's why all these recruits right now are pulling out of LSU. A new coach, and I think they understand that some type of, at least a year, I would say.
Say 1 year postseason ban?
Yeah, I would say that's probably it. Like a 1 year postseason ban.
Losing scholarships and visits?
Yes, scholarships, visits in a that's all a year. That's going to be the calendar
That's on the
year.
basketball side.
Basketball side.
What about football?
Yeah, I think
Did they self-impose?
Yeah.
You think the self-imposed penalties are enough?
Yeah, that's it. It's up.
Football
is not going to be relegated to a postseason ban or anything like that. No chance.
Look, we saw Dale Brown, right? And when we saw the NCAA going after Dale Brown for years and years and years, some of these violations go back to VCU. Is this about the NCAA saying, this guy was calling a wiretap, he's got to go? And it's more about Will Wade than maybe the institution?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely about Will Wade than the institution. I mean, and here's the thing: what was Scott Woodward? What were William Tate supposed to do when they inherited a guy? In months into the job? I mean, literally right when Scott Woodward started here, you realize this broke. And so, I mean, he was on the job, what, a month when all this popped? So what is he supposed to do? Fire the guy who's saying, you know, I'm innocent, or it's going to be, you know, I mean, at some point he's caught, and same with William Tate, the new president.
Well, he did what he had to do by changing the contract.
Right, that's what put the language in the contract up. If the NCAA finds any wrongdoing, you're out. You're out without one more cent from this university. So I think he walked the fine line and tried to thread the needle. He could have moved on from him right away, but then he looks like the bad guy, and somebody else may hire Wade, and they may have won in the last few years at a really high clip. Right, that's what I mean. And so I think he was in a tough situation, and William Tate was in a tough situation, so they did the best they could with put the language in his contract, we'll bring him back, the NCAA investigation is ongoing, and then when I can't believe it took the NCAA 3 years, and even I think Woodward and Tate released that joint statement expressing their frustration that after a years long, I mean, they hammered on how long it took. I think they wanted it over as soon as possible, but once it came out, it made it easy. But yeah, I think it was certainly more about Wade than it was LSU.
Yeah, and I think that if Woodward gets rid of Wade in 19, they're probably not dealing with this today. But it is. But I get it. I get it with the general. Everybody was behind. Look, I vacillated on it as well. Okay, I mean, I did. All right, let's talk Matt McMahon, because he leaves Murray State. He's got a decent reputation as a recruiter. Woodward has been a big name hunter. He didn't do that this time around. This guy gets big money now to come to LSU. Your thoughts on, again, if he can rebuild the program?
Yeah, and so the big name hunter thing is to me, you have to be actually on the plains hunting the big names. Look, LSU football is one of the 5 to 7 greatest programs.
It's a blue blood.
Yeah, it's without question. I mean, you can make the argument in the history of college football, it's one of the 5 to 7 great programs. Okay, college baseball is one of the 3 to 5 greatest programs. I mean, I could make an argument that it's the greatest college baseball program in the history of the sport, but it's without question one of the 3 to 5 greatest programs in the history of the sport.
Yes.
Kim Mulkey is one of the greatest coaches, but she's from here, and she was having a fight with Baylor. So, like, all those situations, getting Jay Johnson from a College World Series program, well, LSU's one of the 3 greatest programs ever. Getting Brian Kelly is the first coach in 100 years. Well, you're talking about one of the 5 to 7 great. Well, LSU basketball probably isn't one of the 50 greatest programs right now, let alone all time. I mean, look, it just is what it is. Like, he has to understand who and what they are. Like, I remember I heard some ridiculousness, and it makes me laugh at people, and I hate to laugh at people, but when they go, he's a big name hunter, is he going to go get Quinn Snyder? Or they're talking about, you think he could talk Brad Stevens away from the Celtics? It's like, no, I don't think Brad Stevens is leaving being the president of the Boston Celtics when they may win a championship, or Quinn Snyder has a team in Utah that may go to the finals. Like, again, football, going after Brian Kelly, going after Lincoln Riley, yes, that's all plausible stuff.
Sure.
Baseball, throw any name out there, you know what I mean? But basketball, it's like, again, it gets back to my know who and what you are, and you will do better in life because the understanding you have. That's what I like about Scott Woodward. These people that threw those names out there, it was crazy talk, because LSU is not one of the elite programs in the SEC historically.
Sure.
Okay?
They've had some great players.
Right, and they've had some good seasons.
Right.
But this is a team that hasn't been to the Final Four since 2006. I mean, we're talking 15 plus years. I was there in 06 in Indianapolis. So it's not like a perennial team. I mean, LSU football's played for 4 national championships in 17 years.
Yes.
The baseball team is in the College World Series every 3 years or so. This basketball team hasn't been to the Final Four since 06. Before that, it was 86. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then, you know, the SEC, to me, I agree. It's a good conference, but it's not the ACC or the Big Ten for basketball, which is a basketball conference. So I like this coach. I think this is a smart move. I think he's done some good things at Murray State. He coached Ja Morant. He's taken them to NCAA tournaments. This is the kind of guy that's sensible and real, that can build a real sustained program,
and grow the program
the right way.
Yes. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really good choice for them. I didn't see it on the radar, but again, when it's all said and done, I thought it was a really good choice. Fletcher, as always, man, really appreciate you joining us. One more time, tell us about Channel 6 Sports, what you guys got going.
Has it been an hour?
Yes, it has. It's just about a minute and a half left.
Man, I talk too much. So Channel 6, my colleague Sharif Ishak covering Loyola in their national championship this weekend. Got the Louisiana Derby. You can watch it, believe it or not, live on WDSU this weekend. And then, of course, we're covering Saints offseason, Pelicans down the stretch, so a lot of great stuff.
Always good to have you.
All right,
Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, plenty of ways to be able to catch our program now. First of all, we got a QR code that'll be up on the screen for you to be able to, again, either go to my website or directly, again, to the WLAE-TV YouTube page to be able to check out the program at your leisure. But again, we've got a rebroadcast tonight at 6 p.m. on LAE, 10 o'clock on The Deuce, then again 9 o'clock on Pelican Sports Television on Friday night, 10 o'clock on LAE, 2 a.m. on The Deuce on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon at 5 p.m. on Pelican Sports Television. Always at ericasher.com, always on the WLAE-TV YouTube page, always on our social media platforms at Eric_Asher on Twitter, Eric Asher on Facebook, Inside New Orleans Show on Instagram. Don't forget about the radio show, 4 to 6, 106.1 FM. That's each and every weekday. You can check out the show on the Anchor app, but we're on all podcasting platforms. Our digital platforms are, again, the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app, and, of course, it's at ericasher.com and also on the 106.1 FM website as well. I want to thank our underwriters who again, support our program. Please continue to support our underwriters. Thanks so much to each and every one of those underwriters, and also the production staff here at WLA, second to none. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Graffia, also Alex Chacon, and of course my director, William Hill. For Fletcher Mackel, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.